Welcome back to another edition of Inside Princeton Vikings Athletics here on VikeNation.org and ESPN Media powered by Sidearm Sports. My name is Jason Griever. As always, we're joined by Princeton Athletic Director Joe Roberts. Joe, good to talk to you here. A lot of stuff to cover, obviously. A couple of sports we're going to hold off on for this week, and this episode will be both girls golf and tennis. They have finished up their seasons, rounding out sectional play within the last week. So our season finale is coming up in 2 weeks. We'll get a full recap of their seasons on that episode. So we'll hold off on that discussion here today. Let's start off our discussion with one of your teams that still has a lot to go for here in the next couple of weeks, and that's cross country. This coming Saturday, we have the GMC Championships. The Saturday following, the 23rd, the district meet in the postseason. And what's interesting about it is they're going to both be at the same place. You're going to Voice of America Park 2 weeks in a row to try and make some noise and get as many through as we can, not only in the GMCs but also in the districts. So I'm wondering, especially Joe, for this week in the GMCs, what are the coaches hoping to see from the runners and also themselves learn about the course so that we can set up our numbers and our runners in the best possible position in the districts to try to advance beyond that?
Yeah, absolutely. And Jason, just before we get started, Highlander Grog Coffee is back at UDF. So we know that fall and the holidays are right around the corner. And what a great thing to have Highlander Grog Coffee. But no, it's a lot like tennis, if you will. And the fact that our conference hosts our conference tennis tournament at Mason, and then the teams get to turn right back around and get sectionals right there at Mason as well. So they get a feel and they get a natural comfort zone of what to expect. Obviously the conditions can always play a little bit different. I looked a little bit out on the forecast. Actually, my wife looked a little bit out on the forecast. So we were trying to see what this weekend was going to be like as we roll into a fall break here at Princeton. So the conditions are going to be pretty good, much what we've seen all year with warmer temperatures and drier conditions. But then you start looking at what happens next week, and the fall weather really starts to set in, and we know everything can change. So the course may run a little bit different between the 2 weeks, but what our coaches are really trying to do is what you just said. We're going to put ourselves in a position so that we get some familiarity there. We know how deep our conference is in cross country. And so we know that we're looking for a spot where we can position our kids, maybe middle of the pack, if you will, upper middle of the pack in the league, which could transcend ourselves to be upper middle of the pack in districts, which then could transcend itself to get one or two out into region from there. So it'll all be about pace and time this week. I know that Coach Cobb and Coach Campbell will spend a lot of time working through those processes. I haven't had a chance to talk to Coach Cobb this week over the weekend yet after going to Ross, but we may need to go over to Landmark and run just to get into some different territory or back to our home site a little bit, kind of get a feel for what contours and conditions are going to be like. Voice of America and Landmark have some similarities in the fact that there is a little bit of a slope or an upgrade, if you will, on a couple of the spots out there. So that might be good to get the kids out and run a little bit on the grass. But this Saturday is going to be a really great meet for our conference, and hats off to Rich Bryant and his staff at Lakota East for running that tournament for us and all the effort that he puts in. And of course, Rich and his team also run the district meet for us in the Southwest. So really looking forward to this weekend.
Do you view what your runners are going to likely see in the district as, and seeing the GMC as almost a preview of that as far as the level of competition? You said that you're looking for possibly a upper mid pack finish in the GMC and kind of a similar spot in the districts. Is this GMC championship kind of a litmus test for what the runners can see in the districts?
Oh, hands down. I mean, you look at the depth of our teams from Mason to East to West to what Oak Hills has been able to bring out, the strength of Coleraine, top to bottom. I mean, the GMC is going to be the precursor set for what happens in that district. I know how strong St. X boys are going to be, but we in Centerville, as we start to move in, but Centerville will feed to a different district. But, our kids will need to be ready to go this weekend so that they can really be ready for the following week. This is their time. We talk about this all year. It's all about building up to this championship season. The conference championship led right into the district, regional, and state. So I think what you see this coming Saturday out of the GMC is what you're going to really see coming out of the following week at districts.
Let's move on and talk about our soccer teams here. And we'll start with the boys first. Yeah, we're finishing up the regular season this week, but we also know now the postseason draw and the route we're going to have to go to try and make a run in the postseason. And it's rather interesting how the draw came out here, especially with the boys, because you've drawn Sycamore in the opening round of the sectional. That's going to happen on the 19th. The funny thing is, you're going to see Sycamore this coming Thursday on the 14th. So you're going to play them twice, 5 days apart there. I'm wondering, in that perspective, how much that can help your team, knowing that you will have that match so fresh in their minds, and also knowing the way the draw pointed out and worked out, you have a 26 seed waiting for you in round 2. It seems like the pieces and the layout is there for at least a third round run.
You know, Coach Cuspier and I actually talked about this 2 weeks ago. One Saturday morning, he was coming off of the practice field, and we had a conversation about now's where you start to lay yourself into a position where we're playing the type of soccer where our team can grab 2 quick wins in this sectional. And then once you reach that district semifinal area, it is anybody's match. It really is. It's about who's on the hot streak right now, which way that ball is going to move, how much you can keep it on your other half of on the other half of the field and out of the defensive side of things. I think coming into this now, I think the coaches and the players, we want to win this week, without question. But what we also want to be able to do is play a brand of soccer that they may not have seen, so that when they come back, turn right back around on Tuesday, the 19th, maybe it's a little bit of a different facet for Sycamore. So that's just not the same old rotation, if you will. So I think he may try to mix some things up. He may try to slide some people into some different positions just so that he can get a feel of what he may have to do as we lead into that opening sectional match. And then, as you said, if we grab a W there, then we're right back with Edgewood. And that takes you right into that district semis, and who knows what can happen from there. But I think our boys soccer team's playing the brand of soccer right now where we've really started to turn the corner in our flow, in our spread, and how we're being able to move the ball across the field. And of course, having Cole back there, as our captain and as our goalie, when he can see the entire field, he's able to direct the kids properly. And it's going to be a really great, exciting 2 weeks of soccer.
Yeah, he is for sure, as we've documented here on the podcast in the past, one of the better keepers, not only in the GMC, I think, but in Greater Cincinnati as well. And you look at the way things shake out as far as the brackets go. You look ahead all the way to that third round. Should you get there, you're likely going to get Moeller in that third round. That won't be an easy task, but obviously the first task at hand will be to take care of Sycamore, as they are a 7 seed. They've had a strong season, just like your program has as well. So that'll be a good matchup. And again, twice in 5 days. Can't ask for much more familiarity when you get into the sectional. And then, of course, as you said, anything can happen if you're able to get to a district semi. Over on the girls' side, they've had a tough year. There's no other way to word it with the year they've had. Just seemingly, if anything can go against them, it seems like it has to this point. And we also now know the draw for the girls, but we also look at the way things finish out this week in the regular season. You got scheduled road trips to Hamilton, to Sycamore, and to Talawanda before the sectional draw begins. And we know, as I said, the draw there, you're going to get Wilmington on the 18th. Seems like a winnable match on paper. Obviously, you got to take care of business to do it. And then, of course, if you win that opening round match, your reward for getting to the second round is Mount Notre Dame in round 2. So that's obviously going to be a very, very tall order. But I just want to get your thoughts on what you saw with the draw and getting a Wilmington team in round 1 that on paper seems like would be a good matchup for your team and a possibility to advance there.
Yeah, and I'll go back just a little bit, Jason, just on what you said just a minute ago. Our girls, their heart has not stopped at any point. Their effort and energy has not stopped at any point in this season that has been a struggle from the beginning, and they continue to put forth everything that we ask of them. They've been decimated with injuries all throughout the season. Numbers have been up and down, if you will, on who can play and who can't play. And trying to keep the healthiness of our student athletes has been just something that has been in the forefront all year on the girls' soccer side. But with that being said, I'm going to take the heat on this week because we had to backload our schedule to try to make sure we had a full composite of matches for everybody. And so now we've got 3 matches this week that on one hand is probably really good. If we would have been healthy and had a full slate of, a full team playing 3 matches and then rolling into that Wilmington match on Monday, I think that would have been a really positive side of things. But given our current situation in terms of the injury side, I think we've got a lot of matches in front of us that can get us some momentum, but we've got to make sure we stay healthy this week and try to avoid any more injury plague, if you will, so that when we get to Wilmington on Monday, and it is our fall break, so the kids will have a little bit of mental rest and a little bit of downtime there. We can go up there on Monday night and we probably can play a really strong brand of soccer that's going to put us on a positive side. And then we run into the juggernaut, but we all want a Cinderella story, don't we? The 28 versus the 1, how great can that be? And I look at it also for our seniors to be able to go face that type of competition and that level of action for our kids. That's what we look for each night from Viking soccer. And so, again, anything can happen. The ball can roll funny for everybody. So it's been a tough year for the Lady Viking soccer program, but on the same time, the girls have never quit. And that's been the heart and soul of what we've seen.
How much do you credit that mindset and that mentality to your head coach, Sydney Lapham? As you said, with all the injuries, the attrition, the numbers up and down, having to bring JV kids up to step in immediately into a league that does nobody any favors on a daily basis. How would you say she's handled things this year?
Well, I think she's, last year she was, coming off of her first year last year, she had so much fight. And I think part of this has affected her too, in terms of the challenges of the injuries. But again, she hasn't quit either. And she comes out there with a passion. She's battle tested in the fact that she's played this sport pretty much her entire life. She believes in what our girls are doing and believes in what our team is doing. You can see it in her, like when a girl goes down, she's just like, oh, please no, kind of situation, just hoping that they're okay and wanting to continue that battle. And I think that's worn on her a little bit from that standpoint as a coach and just the overall care for the student athlete. But I don't think she's afraid. I think she's ready to go out there and get anybody that wants to play soccer. We'll go after them. So.
Well, and I think at this point in the season, you got to have that willingness to go out there to compete. And if you don't have that at this point in the season, then, you're kind of behind the 8 ball as is. So, the opportunity is there. And you just got to be able to, get a healthy group out there, and you never know what can happen. As you said, who doesn't love a Cinderella story? And boy, would that be the Cinderella of all Cinderella stories if you're able to get to round 2 and pull off the stunner over Mount Notre Dame. But we'll keep an eye on how things go from there. Let's move indoors right now, and let's talk about your volleyball team here. And last couple of weeks have really started to turn things around here. They've won 2 out of 3 heading into the final week of the regular season. We've got a Sycamore closing out the home slate this coming Tuesday. We also know the sectional draw for your team. They're going to be a 27 seed taking on a Walnut Hills team that's won just 1 match on the season on the 19th. So a really good opportunity to get into the second round. And we look at the way things have set up. Ursuline would be waiting in round 2 on the 23rd. And obviously everybody knows how strong their athletics programs are. Yeah. But I also want to talk about too, the way your team has improved its play over the last couple of weeks here. We started the month of September dropping 7 of our first 8, but since then we've gone 3-3 in our last 6. So we're turning things around at the right time. How important is that to start playing winning volleyball, knowing that the sectionals are just around the corner and likely Ursuline is waiting in round 2?
Yeah, well, I'll go this way. What's your favorite roller coaster at Kings Island, Jason? Pick whichever one. The Beast. Okay, yeah, that's been our volleyball season all year. Like, we hit these really high peaks, and then all of a sudden you look over the edge and here we go right back down the slide. And that's not the slide is not anything that's a negative. It's a positive. It's we come out really strong, and then we hit a bump and we go back down, but then all of a sudden we shoot right back up that next hill to make that turn. And that's been what I've seen out of Coach Sparks and our volleyball team all year. There have been some unbelievable moments that she has put our team and our girls in this year. i.e., we grab a first match win off of Lakota West, and they've not done that in a long time here. So we haven't seen those types of level of play, but our girls get out there, and it's about their rotation. It's about who's hot on the serve at that time, and it's a matter of making sure we're setting in the right positions each and every time. And they have never stopped that pace. And so as we close out this regular season here, we need to finish strong this week, and we need to go down to Walnut Hills next week, and we need to just battle and put them away early, if you will. But the rich tradition of Walnut Hills, they won a state championship many years ago, so they have a strong volleyball background, and it's going to be a great opening round match for us that will set us up for Ursuline, that will prepare us for what we need to do. But we can't look at Ursuline. We got to look at Walnut Hills and what's in front of us for the rest of this week first. And I really am excited for them, for the way that they have stood up, made sure that each and every night they're going to play our brand of volleyball. Whether we come up on the short side or not, there has not been a match yet where we have just simply said, we're not in this to the very end.
You mentioned there that there's been some very, very exciting moments throughout the season with this team. As you said, you take an opening set off Lakota West, very competitive there, and Lakota West winds up winning the match. But nevertheless, as you said, it's been a while since you've been able to do that against Lakota West. Lately wins over Purcell, Hamilton, easily take care of Winton Woods a few weeks back there. So as we're building toward the postseason, do you feel like, and does Coach Sparks feel like, we're at a point where we're putting more and more of these moments together to give us a more complete match from wire to wire that can lead into a potential, obviously a first round match with Walnut Hills and then a second round matchup with Ursuline, to where if we can bottle it up, put it all together at this point, we can easily knock Ursuline out.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a great analogy, Jason, to put to it. And as I look at this week, we'll travel to New Richmond tonight, and then we've got a league match tomorrow. And then that closes out the regular season for our JVs and our freshman teams. They'll come in on Wednesday and do an inter squad, if you will, and collect uniforms and what have you. But what that also does is now it allows our varsity team to start their concentrated effort on the tournament. Let's get focused on where we need to be now and start preparing ourselves. And I think that's going to be a very great key for all of our fall sports seasons. It has been a long road. If I look at it now, this time last year, I think we were in maybe the third round of football playoffs. I mean, it's been a long year for our student athletes and our coaches. And, they've stood the test of time, and they're handling this adversity, and they continue to play. And that's where we want them to be. We want them in that mindset of, let's not stop playing. Let's just keep going and keep that momentum going for us. So looking forward to this week's strong regular season finish and getting into next week's.
Kind of a similar story as far as the grind of the season with your water polo teams, as they have played, both of them have played, you could argue, as strong a schedule as anybody in the state of Ohio, both the boys and the girls. Some mixed results in there because of the schedule you played and the traveling you've had to do and whatnot. But obviously, we love being in the home pool. But we also see that the regionals are right around the corner, which is in the next week or two. And so there's not a lot of time left to try to get ourselves into top form there. What have you seen over the last couple of weeks from your water polo teams that, in your mind and maybe in the coach's mind as well, needs to get shored up ahead of the regionals so that your stay in the postseason is not a short one?
And I think from the girls' side, we need to make sure our numbers stay where they are now, that we have an opportunity to really set a really good mark and make some moves. We've got the Mavericks coming up this week. And then like you said, we hit right into that regional. We host the JV regional here, and we also will host the boys regional here the following week. And then, of course, we're the host site on the 30th for the state championships. From the girls' side, I think it's just a matter of continuing that same system that Coach Shell has in place. We've got to make sure our offense is on point. We got to make sure our goalie is communicating to that defense and making sure that we are putting ourselves in the right position. And what I've learned is about where we throw the ball. When we take the ball from the defensive end down to the offensive end, it's a matter of putting it on the right, correct side, whether it's the left or the right, whichever one of those swings are moving down there fast enough. And so we can put ourselves in a position to score. From the boys' side, they're just in the water. Like you can tell there's a huge youth movement. Our seniors have done an unbelievable job of developing our younger water polo players, both on the boys and the girls. The advantage that the boys have is that they had an opportunity to do it last year. And coming off of that incredible state runner-up finish, even though we had a very strong group of seniors last year, our current seniors that were juniors, they all had experience in the water for the most part. So it's almost as if they've been there and done that. Now we know that St. X, St. Charles, Milford, you can go right down the line, Sycamore, everyone is going to give us their best each and every time. But the boys headed over to Milford over the weekend and I think they went 3-2 or 4-1, something to that effect over the weekend. But it's what you said. I mean, it's just you play 5 matches in a day and that can put a grind on you, but it just shows you how physically in condition we are for both the boys and the girls. So really, really excited about what both Coach Shell and Coach Tamaris have in place as we close out this water polo season, get ready to move into the swim season. And of course, we'll be right back in the water with spring water polo. So it's going to be a great month of water polo.
Lastly, here, as we like to do here on the fall season, let's talk about your football team. They keep things rolling right now. They're at 7-1 overall, 4-1 in the GMC. Got off to a slow start against Sycamore. I'm sure there was maybe a touch of concern from some fans in attendance at the game. You fall behind 13-0 early in the second quarter, and people are wondering, so what's going on here? And then Jaleel Engelman says, don't worry, I got this. 96-yard kickoff return, then follows it up with a 20-yard touchdown reception later in the quarter, and you're off to the races, and you wind up outscoring them 42-7 the rest of the way for a comfortable 22-point win. You're going to get Mason coming up this Friday. They have really been struggling over the last month or so, and then you host Coleraine a week from now, and that's a huge one as far as playoff seeding goes in 2 weeks. So big games coming up. Important we take care of business here against Mason before we get focused on Coleraine, of course. But here on this show, I want to get your thoughts now that we've seen a full season from your sophomore quarterback, TJ Engelman, and everything he just continues to do for a guy who got thrust into that spot maybe before anybody expected him to be or thought he would be ready for, and he has handled it as well as anybody thus far in the league. He's accounted for 27 total touchdowns. He's among the league leaders in both passing and running in the GMC. And as I said, he's just a sophomore and what maybe wasn't supposed to be in this spot heading in to the season, and yet he has performed as well as anybody to this juncture with just 2 weeks to go. In your mind, and maybe in Coach Parker's mind as well, don't know if this has come up in conversation or not, but in either case, should TJ Engelman be considered among the favorites for the GMC Player of the Year?
Well, I certainly would think so, Jason. He's got 1148 in passing yards, leading the conference right now, 812 rushing yards, so 1,960 yards total offense. And we're 8 games into the season. You're 100% right. I don't think he had any expectation of being in the role that he was in. In fact, we know that he wouldn't have been. We still know that our leader, Mekhi Lynn, would have been quarterback had the injury not occurred that did occur. But what TJ is he is a young leader. He accepts the role that he's been given and the responsibility that he's been given. And it was just, hey, listen, we need you to quarterback our team right now and take the helm. That return kick Friday night, I don't know if you got a chance to watch it, but I know you through the broadcast. Yeah. So I normally stand down by the scoreboard during our games. And because it was homecoming and Hall of Fame and all the events that we had, I was at the other end of the field. When he catches that ball and he starts to run, he's heading toward our sideline for a minute, and he stops. And I'm hollering, do not stop. But he stopped so that the defender could run past him, and he cuts around. I mean, just the way he made that run was just so impressive. And then, like you said, it was off to the races. Once he found that hole, he was gone down that sideline. And that was just an amazing return for our team. And what a momentum filler for us. But, Coach Parker, that's his mantra. We come out each and every week. We go to work. We talked a little bit Saturday morning. They were in breaking down film, and I went to see him, and I just said, boy, we love these slow starts. We love to let the team kind of get ahead a little bit, and then we just go ahead and take care of business. But some of that has to do with just simply, gearing ourselves into the momentum of the night and gearing ourselves into the evening. And we're going over to Mason Friday night, and it's their homecoming weekend. And so we have a lot in front of us. The expectations will be high, and the energy and emotion will be high over there with the Comets. No doubt about that. We're coming off of homecoming. And I know that our student athletes all had a great time at the dance. I could tell from the photos. We were in the middle of our Hall of Fame ceremony during the dance. But I could tell that everybody enjoyed themselves. It was a wonderful evening. This week we have fall break coming up. So school ends on Thursday, so they'll have Friday off and then a couple of days next week off. But so that's going to take us a little bit out of our rhythm and out of our rotation. And I think Coach has to really try to bring that back in and keep everything as consistent as possible, because we have a lot in front of us these next 2 weeks. And I think we need to go over there. We need to take care of business on the offensive and defensive line side of things and keep moving that football up and down. And I think things will come out okay.
The way we look at the computer rankings going into this coming week, and those will update here in the next couple of days. You're currently seated sixth in the region at this juncture. Right now, you've got Lakota West up there at 4. Colerain is not far behind you. They're at 8. So that's a big one there as far as playoff seeding goes. And obviously Mason's a little bit behind you as well. How important is it the next 2 weeks to at least go 1-1, if not 2-0, so that you don't take a hit in the standings and potentially draw like a St. X in round 2 of the playoffs?
Yeah. Coach is kind of the guy that brings me back a little bit and keeps me out of don't be looking at rankings and don't be looking at numbers. We got to go play our games. We got to go take care of Princeton. Don't worry about what's ahead. Let's just take care of what's in front of us. And, that's the beauty of Coach Parker and his staff and how the message he continues to send to his team. We need to do what we need to do to stay in our position that we're trying to stay in. I think right now we need to make sure the teams that we've played continue to take care of business, or we get them moving forward to take care of business. I think that we're trying to put ourselves in the right spots. Obviously, if we can grab 2 these next 2 weeks, that'll put us in a position where we're probably going to host and keep that momentum side of things going. And then it's the postseason. And I think that's the phrase that we always use now. It's anybody's game. That's what we talked about with volleyball. It's what we've talked about with soccer, cross country. It's really anybody's game. Ball goes funny for everybody. And we'll just have to be in the right positions at the right time and keep playing our brand of football. I think that's the key to this, is that we cannot change our identity. We have to continue doing what we're doing.
And Coach Parker has been able to do that for the majority of this season. As we said, 7-1 overall, a good opportunity to go at least to 8-1 this week if you take care of a Mason who's been reeling a bit. And of course, obviously the big one on the 22nd back at home against Colerain. Yeah. So a lot to be determined there at this point, and obviously postseason just around the corner for the other sports that we've covered here today. We're going to get into it all once again 2 weeks from now, Joe. Certainly appreciate the time though here today, and boy, what an exciting time it is right now.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me.
That is Princeton Athletic Director Joe Roberts joining us once again for the Inside Princeton Vikings Athletics podcast here on VikeNation.org and ESP Media, powered by Sidearm Sports.